You are Comrade, a 15-year-old who has just hacked NASA. You are not just online, you are inside their system. You are not on a NASA website, and you are not watching a launch stream. You are inside their machines. A directory opens that should not exist to you. A login accepts you when it should not. Your stomach drops, because for the first time you feel that this is not a game. These are real systems, real work, and real consequences. Your hands do not leave the keyboard because you did not get here by being reckless. You got here by being patient and by being the kind of kid who does not see rules as sacred, only as implemented. Implementations have seams. The world is quiet. There are no alarms and no red lights. There is only a screen, a blinking cursor, and the awful realization that if you are here, then someone left a door open. If someone left a door open at NASA, you wonder how many doors are open everywhere else. And NASA is not where this story starts. NASA is just where the story stops being a kid's obsession and becomes everyone else's problem. This starts years earlier in a house where the word no is supposed to be final. You are 12 years old when you find your first seam. It is not in NASA, and it is not in the government. It is in your own home. There are parental locks and restrictions that tell you that you cannot do certain things. You do not scream or argue. You sit quietly and watch the screen like it is a safe, teaching your hands the combination. At first, it is small and almost innocent. You notice patterns. You notice what the machine assumes you will never touch, and what the software hides behind the words "are you sure?" You experiment with doing things in the wrong order. You learn that some rules are not truly rules. They are suggestions wearing a uniform. One night it works. Something that was supposed to stop you does not. It does not feel like a crime. It feels like clarity, as if the world finally makes sense. You realize that rules are not moral by default. They are configuration, defaults, and choices someone made quickly and forgot to defend. Once you see that, you cannot unsee it. The dangerous part is that the first success does not make you greedy. It makes you confident. It teaches your brain a lesson it will keep chasing. If a door exists, it can open. You keep looking for doors. In middle school, late at night, the house is asleep, and you are not. You stare at your computer and feel frustrated by the way it behaves, and the way it tells you what you can and cannot do. It assumes you are a passenger, so you decide to stop being one. You remove Windows and replace it with Linux, as if you are swapping out your own skeleton while everyone else is dreaming. In the morning, the screen looks different, the rules look different, and you feel different. You are no longer just using a computer, you are negotiating with it, and you enjoy the negotiation. Your life narrows down to three things: books, keys, and time. You collect knowledge instead of sports cards. You study Unix, the C programming language, networking, and concepts that feel like a secret language the universe forgot to translate for everyone else. You study until commands stop being words and start being reflexes. You learn to look at a system and sense where it is lazy and where it assumes no one will push. That is when the targets begin. They are not big at first, and they are not NASA. They are small and close. They are systems people do not even think of as systems, such as a school login, a shared machine, or a network that trusts anyone who looks familiar. You do not smash things. You slip in, look around, prove to yourself that it is possible, and slip out. You are not collecting money. You are collecting evidence that the world runs on assumptions, and that assumptions crack when you press on them long enough. Adults do not understand this when they are yelling from the doorway. The fights at home start small and then become heavier. They tell you to go to bed and to get off the computer. They say you have been on it all night. Over time, their anger turns into fear, because the longer you sit at that screen, the less they recognize you. They do not understand what you are building in your head. They only see a kid disappearing into a glow. You do not know how to explain that the computer feels like the only place where the world is honest. A system either breaks or it does not. There is no pretending and no because I said so. There is only cause and effect. You keep going. Each seam you find trains your brain harder, not on stealing, but on pattern recognition and on the thrill of seeing what everyone else walks past. You start to believe that the world is a puzzle and that you are one of the few people who can read the pieces. By 15, you have a name that is not your real name. Online, you are Comrade. A name like that gives you a mask, distance, and permission. It does not give you permission to hurt people. It gives you permission to ignore the part of your brain that says this is too big for you. The escalation becomes inevitable because small doors stop satisfying you. You are measuring yourself and asking a question that can ruin you if you answer it wrong. You wonder whether the giants are actually giants or just tall because nobody tried to push. The targets grow into bigger networks and bigger institutions. Each time you slip through a seam, you tell yourself that you are not hurting anyone and that you are just looking and proving something. The summer of 1990 arrives, and your compass points at the loudest symbol of untouchable you can imagine: NASA. On June 29th and June 30th, 1990, you access 13 NASA computers at the Marshall Space Flight Center without ever setting foot there. You enter through distance alone. It is quiet on the screen. You see directories, permissions, and systems running their routines, as they always do. No one on the other side knows you exist. exist. Then you do the thing that changes everything. You download NASA proprietary software valued at about $1.7 million. It is not money or credit cards, it is code. The software supports the International Space Station's physical environment, including temperature and humidity control in the living space. That detail hits you hard because your challenge is no longer just a puzzle. It is connected to breath and survival, to humans living inside a metal shell in a place that will kill them. If the inside stops behaving, even if downloading source code does not mean you can control the International Space Station, you have crossed a line into the engineering that keeps people alive. For a moment, you feel powerful, and then you feel small because you cannot unknow what you touched. You realize that the world's most important systems are still systems implemented and maintained by humans, and sometimes left open by humans. NASA finds out the consequence is not cinematic, it is administrative. NASA shuts down the affected systems for 21 days in July 1999. There are 3 weeks of caution, cleanup, and explanations about why work is delayed because a teenager reached through the mesh. The damages are calculated at around $41,000 in contractor labor and equipment replacement costs, tied to the shutdown and delays. Those numbers represent adults in meetings, phones ringing, deadlines slipping, and screens turned off on purpose because you wanted to see if you could. You could. Most people would stop there, but stopping is hard when your brain has been trained to chase seams. The seam does not feel like temptation. It feels like a question, and your identity is built around answering questions. 2 months later, the target changes from space to defense. From August 23rd to October 27th, 1999, you intrude into a military computer network used by the Defense Threat Reduction Agency. You gain unauthorized access to a router in Dulles, Virginia, and install a concealed backdoor. You intercept more than 3,300 emails and obtain at least 19 usernames and passwords, at least 10 of which are tied to military computers. At this point, your story stops being about a kid poking around. When you are inside defense communications, the world does not ask what you meant. It asks what damage is possible now that you exist inside the walls. Intent does not protect you from consequences. On September 21st, 2000, the Justice Department announces that a 16-year-old from Miami has pleaded guilty and is sentenced to 6 months in a detention facility. The case is treated as a message that juveniles will be prosecuted as well. As a condition of your sentence, you must write letters of apology to NASA and the Department of Defense. You sit with pen and paper and realize that you cannot hack your way out of being labeled. There is no exploit for reputation and no patch for what people decide you are. Time passes and you try to become invisible, but the internet does not forget a name like c0mrade. Years later, your father tells a reporter that you started on the family computer when you were 6, that you fought over computer use, and that you stayed up late. The world hears the word genius, but you know the other side of it. Obsession is hunger, and hunger does not negotiate. The world loves talent but does not know what to do with it when it shows up too early. A kid who can see seams becomes both valuable and dangerous because the skill grows faster than the person holding it. If nobody teaches him what those seams mean ethically, socially, and psychologically, the talent becomes a weapon without a handler. In 2008, the past returns when the Secret Service raids your home in connection with the retail hacking ring investigation. The old terror comes back. Not just the fear of getting caught, but the fear of becoming a symbol and a headline in someone else's story. Your father says you struggled with depression. And at some point, the pressure stops being about computers and becomes about life shrinking into a corner with no clean exit. You write a note saying you have no faith in the justice system and that you have lost control and see this as your only way to regain it. On May 18th, 2008, you are found dead.